The black car pulled up to the curb, its tinted windows reflecting the dim street lights. Sophia watched from her bedroom window, heart pounding against her ribs. She'd heard rumors about Dante Ricci, the man who ruled the city's underworld with an iron fist, the man who was now coming to collect what was owed to him. She remembered her father's tearful confession just 3 days ago. The gambling debts. The threats. The ultimatum. Marry his daughter to the Ricci family or face consequences that would destroy them all. Her father had offered her as payment the final transaction in a desperate attempt to save his own skin. Sophia's mother had died 7 years ago, leaving her with only a silver locket and words of wisdom that now seemed cruelly ironic: never let anyone determine your worth. Yet here she was, reduced to a bargaining chip, her worth determined by her father's poor choices and a stranger's mercy. The doorbell rang, its sound piercing through the quiet house like a bullet. Sophia flinched but didn't move from her position by the window. She could hear her father's hurried footsteps downstairs, the door opening, and muffled voices. One deep and commanding: Dante. Sophia. Her father called, his voice strained. Come down. Now. She closed her eyes, taking one last moment for herself before descending the stairs. Each step felt like walking toward her own execution. When she reached the bottom, she saw him for the first time. Dante Ricci stood in her father's modest living room, looking wildly out of place in his tailored suit that probably cost more than their monthly rent. He was younger than she expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp features that might have been handsome if not for the coldness in his dark eyes. Those eyes now assessed her with calculated interest, as if appraising merchandise. Mr. Ricci, her father said, his voice trembling. This is my daughter, Sophia. Dante approached her slowly, circling like a predator. She's prettier than in the photos, he remarked, not to her but to her father, as if she weren't even present. She'll do nicely. Do nicely for what? Sophia found her voice, ignoring her father's warning glance. Dante's lips curved into what might have been a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Your father didn't tell you? You're to be my wife by the end of the week. The payment for his considerable debt to me. I'm not property to be traded, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Everyone has a price, cara mia, Dante replied, reaching out to touch her cheek. She jerked away, and something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Even you. Her father stepped between them nervously. Sophia, please. Mr. Ricci has been very generous. He's willing to forgive everything if I sell myself to him. Sophia finished, anger replacing fear. If you become part of my family, Dante corrected smoothly. You'll want for nothing. My home will be yours. My protection. My name. Many women would consider it an honor. Then find one of them instead. A tense silence followed her words. Her father looked as if he might faint. But instead of anger, Dante's expression showed something unexpected: amusement. Spirited, he commented. I like that. It makes breaking someone more satisfying. He checked his watch, an obvious display of power in its casual dismissal of the tension. I'll return tomorrow at noon. Have her ready, Moretti. And remind her that if she refuses, I'll collect my payment another way. Perhaps starting with that cafe your sister owns downtown. Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. Her Aunt Lucia's cafe was her only source of income after her recent layoff. It was also the only connection she had left to her mother, who had helped her sister start the business years ago. You wouldn't, she whispered. Business is business, Dante replied with a shrug. Your father made promises he couldn't keep. Someone must pay. I'm offering you a choice in how that payment is made. After he left, Sophia rounded on her father, who couldn't meet her eyes. How could you? She demanded, tears threatening to spill. How could you do this to me? I had no choice, Sophia, he pleaded, collapsing onto the sofa. They were going to kill me. And then they'd come after you anyway. At least this way, you'll be safe. Protected. Wealthy, even. As a possession. As a she couldn't even say it. The thought of being that man's wife made her stomach turn. There has to be another way. But even as she said it, she knew there wasn't. She had $437 in her bank account, no job, and nowhere to run where Dante Ricci's influence wouldn't reach. This wasn't just about her anymore. Her aunt, her cousins, they'd all suffer if she refused. That night, Sophia barely slept. Her mind raced with desperate plans of escape, each one more impossible than the last. By morning, she had accepted the inevitable, but not without forming a plan of her own. If she was to be Dante Ricci's wife, she wouldn't make it easy for him. She would find his weaknesses, learn his secrets, and when the time was right, she would free herself from this arrangement. What she didn't expect was the mansion that awaited her the next day. As Dante's driver escorted her through wrought iron gates to a sprawling estate on the city's outskirts, Sophia felt like she'd stepped into another world. Security cameras tracked their movement. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. This wasn't just a home, it was a fortress. Inside, a stern-faced housekeeper named Mrs. Russo greeted her with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome, Miss Moretti. I'll show you to your room." "My room?" "Not." Sophia couldn't finish the sentence. "Mr. Ricci has arranged separate accommodations until the wedding," Mrs. Russo explained, leading her up a grand staircase. "He believes in certain traditions." Relief flooded Sophia, though she knew it was only temporary. 4 days. She had 4 days before the wedding to figure out a plan, to find leverage against Dante, to discover anything that might give her control over her situation. Her room was larger than her entire apartment, with a 4-poster bed and windows overlooking manicured gardens. It might have been beautiful if it weren't a gilded cage. "Dinner is at 7, Mrs. Russo informed her. "Mr. Ricci expects you to join him. Anna will help you dress appropriately." She gestured to a young woman standing quietly by the doorway, who Sophia hadn't even noticed. When they left, Sophia immediately began exploring. The door wasn't locked, it didn't need to be with guards everywhere. The windows opened, but it was a 30-foot drop to the ground below. Her phone had been confiscated upon arrival, replaced with one that could only call within the estate. She was trapped. At 7 o'clock, wearing a black dress that Anna had selected from a closet already filled with clothing in her size, Sophia descended to the dining room. Dante was waiting, standing by a table set for 2 with fine china and crystal. "You look lovely," he said, his eyes traveling over her in a way that made her skin crawl. "Why the charade?" Sophia asked bluntly, ignoring his compliment. "The separate rooms, the formal dinner. If I'm just payment for a debt, why pretend this is anything else?" Dante pulled out her chair. "Sit." It wasn't a request. Sophia sat, her back rigid. "Contrary to what you believe," Dante said as he took his own seat across from her, "this isn't just about your father's debt. That was merely convenient timing." Sophia frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I've had my eye on you long before your father came begging for mercy," Dante replied, pouring wine into her glass. "I saw you 6 months ago, at the art gallery opening downtown. You were with friends, laughing. You didn't notice me, people rarely do unless I want them to, but I noticed you." A chill ran down her spine. 6 months. He'd been watching her for 6 months. "So when your father offered you as collateral," Dante continued, "I saw an opportunity to acquire something I already wanted." "I'm not something to be acquired," Sophia said through gritted teeth. "Everyone is something to be acquired," if the price is right. Dante sipped his wine. Your price was your father's life and your aunt's livelihood. Rather reasonable, I thought. Sophia stared at him, trying to comprehend the kind of man who could speak so casually about manipulating people's lives. And what happens after the wedding? What do you expect from me? Initially, your presence. Your companionship. You'll attend events with me, play the role of devoted wife in public. His eyes darkened. As for private matters, we have time. I'm a patient man when it comes to breaking in thoroughbreds. Sophia's hand tightened around her knife. And if I refuse to play along? Then your family suffers, Dante said simply. But I don't think you'll refuse. You're too principled for that. The way he said principled, like it was a character flaw to be exploited rather than a virtue, made Sophia realize just how dangerous he truly was. Not just because of his power or his connections, but because he understood people understood her in ways that gave him control. Over the next 3 days, Sophia learned more about Dante Ricci and his operation than he probably intended. She observed his meetings from hidden corners, listened to phone calls when he thought she wasn't around, made note of faces and names of those who visited the estate. She learned that while his business had legitimate fronts, real estate, import/export, even a chain of restaurants, the real money came from less savory ventures. She also discovered something unexpected: Dante had enemies. Powerful ones. During a heated phone call, she overheard a name, Valentini, spoken with such venom that it caught her attention. Later, discreet questions to Anna revealed that the Valentini family had been rivals of the Riccis for generations, and rumors suggested they were planning something big to upset the balance of power. On the night before her wedding, Sophia found herself on the balcony of her room, contemplating the grounds below and the life that awaited her. She didn't hear the door open, didn't realize she had company until a voice spoke behind her. Having second thoughts, cara mia? She turned to find Dante watching her, his expression unreadable in the moonlight. For the first time, she noticed the faint scar that ran along his jawline, a reminder that even he wasn't invulnerable. Would it matter if I was? She asked. No, he admitted, stepping closer. But I'd prefer a willing bride than one who looks like she's marching to her execution. Isn't that what this is? Dante reached out, and this time she didn't pull away when his fingers touched her cheek. It could be much worse, Sophia. You could be with someone who doesn't appreciate your fire. His thumb traced her lower lip. Someone who would extinguish it rather than enjoy watching it burn. She held his gaze, forcing herself not to show fear. And which are you? Instead of answering, he leaned in and pressed his lips to hers. It wasn't gentle, nor was it as bruising as she might have expected. It was calculating, testing, seeking a response. When he pulled back, his eyes searched hers. Get some rest, he said finally. Tomorrow will be a long day. After he left, Sophia touched her fingers to her lips, confused by her own reaction. She hadn't felt the revulsion she expected. Instead, there had been something else, a dangerous curiosity that frightened her more than any threat could. On her wedding day, as she stood in a designer gown that felt more like funeral attire, Sophia made a decision. She would go through with this marriage, not just for her family's safety, but because Dante's world offered something she hadn't considered before: power. Knowledge. Access to information that could eventually buy her freedom and perhaps even more. As she walked down the aisle toward the man who had orchestrated her capture with the precision of a chess master, Sophia Moretti realized that the payment her father had made wasn't just her future, but potentially Dante Ricci's as well. Because in his quest to possess her, he might just have invited his greatest threat into his home. And as she spoke her vows in a clear, steady voice, Sophia made a promise to herself: this arrangement might have begun as a sentence, but she would ensure it ended as her salvation no matter what it took.